Today I present the seventh problem: wars, terrorism, and violence. I turn again to fundamental science and history. So, wars, terrorism, and violence. This is the natural being of modern man. Is it really all that dramatic? Really, this problem has no radical solution. The reason is that the basic systemic component of the ethical resource of the Homo sapiens line is poorly developed. I presented the systemic model of this resource in my publications. In addition, it has different isomers that appear in different modalities. Carl Linnaeus was certainly mistaken when in 1758 he used the epithet sapiens to define modern man, meaning reasonable Latin. 200 years later, Nobel laureate Albert St. George named modern man in his famous book, The Crazy Ape. There is a reason for this. Indeed, man behaves like a predator through his history. At the same time, his desire for dominance a priori implies the existence of this imperative at the personal and population level. The manifestation of altruism doesn't have a mass character, and on global scale it is impossible by definition, since this will lead to disappearance of the entire population. The situation is aggravated by the divergence between natural science development and the state of the humanitarian sphere. The beginning of this process was marked by biblical sources, when in violation of the ethical norms of paradise, the apple of knowledge was plucked there. Cain, having killed his own brother, became the progenitor of all subsequent generations of men. What to expect from descendants with such heredity? Really. The wisest ancient Greek philosopher Diogenes of Sinope, this is the 4th century BC, was looking for and did not find in Athens someone who, based on ethical ideas, could be called a man. Even those to whom society owes its resources often suffer from his society. This society choose the execution for Christ, having pardoned the robber, it unanimously sentenced the sage Socrates to death. More than 2,000 years have passed. The picture is the same. The Nobel laureate in chemistry in 2011 for the discovery quasicrystals, Daniel Shechtman, was forced to leave the laboratory where he received his outstanding results due to sharp criticism of his work from colleagues. Sharp criticism of colleagues drove Ludwig Boltzmann to suicide. They did not accept his statistical approach in thermodynamics. If only this applied to pure science, high matter, Ignaz Semmelweis, a Hungarian obstetrician, was the first in the world to introduce the practice of training doctors' hands with an antiseptic before childbirth in hospital. This made it possible to reduce the death rate of women in childbirth from postpartum fever, which we now know as sepsis, from 18% by almost 7 times. Colleagues of this great man first ridiculed him and kicked him out of work, and then treated him into an insane asylum where they mocked him a lot, bringing him to sepsis from which he died. The German doctor Gustav Michaels, following the Semmelweis technique, also achieved a sharp decrease in the mortality of women in childbirth, for which he was subjected to aggressive obstruction by his colleagues, which drove him to suicide. Let us recall Anton Chekhov's story, The Evil Boy, where the author writes, "However, in this earthly life, there is nothing absolutely happy. The happy usually carries the poison in itself, or is poisoned by something from outside. Outside, this is society. And in this society, according to the idea of hero of Maxim Gorky play, The Life of Klim Samgin, people absolutely have no reason to be kind, nothing at all except fear." What's the matter? Alexander Bogdanov answered this question 100 years ago with the theory of the technological hostility of the environment. This is shown by historical experience and today's reality. What ethical standards can be discussed in our enlightened time, when people are idolists who can rob and put a gun to the stomach of a pregnant victim, or when even a law enforcement officer can kick a pregnant woman in the stomach? Crime used today is depressing. However, against the backdrop of chronicles of intribal and interstate armed conflicts, this is perceived almost as commonplace. The scale of these social upheavals only increases with time. This is natural. Science already from the 16th century, the divergence between the development of natural sciences and the humanitarian sphere began to develop with acceleration. Thus, the solution of the problem of war, terrorism, and violence is possible only at the level of system oriented palliative. However, society does not show the necessary initiative for this. Albert Einstein wrote in 1934, the further development of mankind depends on its moral principles and not on the level of technical achievements. Only with the foundation, as we see, things are bad. After all, the moral attitude of a person have many isomers, and this is an insurmountable obstacle to scientific forecasting. The laws of thermodynamics say the same. So, I present all forecasts here only as subjected options. So, I have presented 7 main global problems of mankind for which no constructive solution has been proposed. The reason is the insufficient level of fundamental training of modern leaders. In the context of accelerating and increasing the scale of the divergence of the social sphere and the natural science, this will inevitably lead to a global catastrophe. That's all.